Welcome to the Ultralight Airplane Workshop. My name is Leon. Let's learn about pleating a vacuum bag for vacuum bagging a wet layup or vacuum resin infusion. On my earlier video, that is about my first attempt at resin infusion that failed, I kind of stumbled my way through pleating the vacuum bag. It had been many years since I had done it, and I hadn't researched again recently on how to do it. On my second attempt at vacuum infusion, I spent a little more time and played around with it and remembered how to do it. And I also did a little bit of research with YouTube videos and reminded myself on how to do it. There are very few videos that go into detail on pleating the vacuum bag. So I thought it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do that, so that anyone that's having a little trouble with that or hasn't done it before can at least get an idea of a procedure or process that you can use to go ahead and successfully pleat your vacuum bag and not destroy a lot of material in the process of learning how to pleat. We're going to be using this sticky tape, this butyl tape, 1/2 inch wide. See if we can get it to focus on that. What we want to do is put a seal around the outside edge of our layup. What we would like to do while doing that is to provide as few paths for air to leak through as possible. One of the ways we can do that is by doing a continuous layup of the tape as we go around. Also, I'm going to leave this protective backing on it so that nothing will be sticking to it as we're working with it. Won't accidentally get fibers or dust or anything else sticking to it. Just to help you see it a little better, I'm going to put it on one of these corners closer to you. I believe it's going to be this one. Let's get started. Initially, there's no need to push it down hard. I might want to reposition it as we go. I am not going to use 4 separate pieces. I'm going to use one continuous piece. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to come around this curve. I'm just going to slowly, now some of this protective covering will tear, but that's fine. I'm just going to slowly come around the curve. Now with this 1/2 inch wide tape, it's a little easier to make these curves than it is with the 3/4 inch wide tape. I don't want to make too sharp a turn, because what it'll do is it'll try to wrinkle it on the inside corner. So I'm trying to make a fairly gentle turn coming around here. But even though it wrinkles on the corner, we can push that in, because this butyl tape is very soft and it's easy to push it down in and form it with your thumbs as you need to. And one of the things we want to be careful of as we're coming around here, we don't want any of the fibers of our layup layers to get underneath the tape, because that can form a channel for air to escape. So as an example, I have a little bit of fiber from this, well actually it just pulled off easily. I have a little bit of fiber from my peel ply that was sticking out where I was going to lay out the tape. So that could have provided an avenue for air to leak into the part. So I want to remove fibers if I happen to see those. I want to try to keep from touching I should have my gloves on. I want to try to keep from touching the sticky side of the tape as much as I can, because oils from my finger can make it a little bit less sticky. All right, now I don't know if you saw my earlier layup video, but I actually tried to pull this stuff apart. It doesn't pull apart very easy. It just stretches and stretches and tries to hold together. So I'm using my scissors that have the other label on them to cut these. And I want to cut it so that there's going to be overlap between this first edge of the corner and the edge that I'm just now making. A little bit of overlap there. Now, let's go ahead and peel a little bit of this back. Doesn't really matter which one I choose to peel back, but since I've already put this first corner down, it's a little easier to peel that one back. Now, before I push this down, let's turn this over and look at the back side. That's one of the reasons I chose this acrylic for this little layup. A little bit better. Well, here's the corner that we just laid up. You can't see it very well, but maybe we can look at it from the edge. So just laying it there, you can see it's not touching. And around these corners up here that I did, here's another corner we can look at. You can see it's just a little bit touching. Of course, I haven't pushed this down, but there's actually an air gap there. Here's a gap that air could go through if we don't push it down. And it's like that most of the way around. So we want to make sure that we do a very good job pushing this down and make sure there's no air gaps into there. Now this corner over here, we're actually going to just have to use our fingers to push that down in there and get that gap sealed. All right, now let's turn that over and see how that looks. Well, that looks really good. As far as I can tell, it's sealed up. And that little X you see on there, that's just to let me know which side's the bottom side. I did not put any release agent on the bottom side. So in the future, I'll know not to put any epoxy on the bottom side. All right, now just from doing that, let's see what it looks like underneath. Now it's going to be hard for you to see. Now there are little pockets of air that is trapped in there. I'm not seeing any places where there's an air channel all the way through. Now here, there's one that goes about halfway through. Now I would not be able to see that from the top side. There we go. Just pressing on it for the back side, or top side, fix that. That one, the air is actually trapped in there and I'm not able to get rid of that one. Now, of course, we won't be able to do this on our molds that we're making. But with this transparent mold, we can actually get a little practice and figure out what we need to be careful of when we can't see. Okay. Good. Well, here's my vacuum bagging material that I'm going to use. Unfortunately, I can't give you the model number for this because it's been a long time ago since I ordered it. And It doesn't say on the packing material that it was sent with. But it's very thin, it's non-stretchable. All right, now I kind of got it out here. Now, if we tried to just push it down straight into this, we would probably get a wrinkle here that we could not get out. We'd probably get a wrinkle here that we could not get out, and air would escape through those wrinkles. And that's because of these ports, the outlet port and the inlet port that we put on here for epoxy to be pulled into here with vacuum and for the vacuum to be pulled here. Another issue we would have is that this bag would come down about like that and leave a huge gap under here when we pulled our vacuum. That's no good. What it'll try to do is fill up with epoxy in this great big gap that would be here. And it's very likely to tear on any sharp places that we'd have up on these ports or down below. So we don't want to do that. What we want to do then is put pleats in here. We want to get this bag up. If we can seal pleats, we can put one here. We can put one here, and that might be enough to do it. But in the experience I've had, I really need to put a pleat here and a pleat here also. As the vacuum is being drawn down, then I can manipulate this bag and get a nice smooth area on top of each port. I can avoid any spans like this, except smaller ones down below. Okay, well, how are we going to seal up those pleats? That's the next thing to talk about. I want to make sure I have plenty of vacuum bag material. So when I cut it, what I did was I squashed it down here, squashed it down here, so that when this is down tight, with my fingers at least, then I know that I need at least this much pleat to be able to do that much squishing, at least in this direction. Now I'd like to have a little bit more. So when I cut it with excess out here. Let's do a little bit more though. Let's come up, since I got plenty of excess on the side, let's come up higher. So let's pleat it probably about that high. But don't want to go too much, because what'll happen is I'm going to have lots of wrinkles in here I got to deal with. So I don't want to go too high. So about that high, I think, is how high we'll go for this first pleat. How are we going to prevent air coming through this pleat? Well, we're going to use some more of our sticky tape here. So I need this much plus a little bit more, and I'm going to go about 1 inch more. So the height of my pleat plus just a little bit more. And I'm using my other scissors. Now we need to move vacuum bag out. We're going to start putting our vacuum bag down. So let's start peeling back here. And let's come up to about our halfway point. Here's where we need to really start being careful. As long as the vacuum bag just lays on it, it'll be a little bit sticky, but you can still peel it off. So as long as you don't push it down in there, you can peel it off. So what we got to do is be careful that no wrinkles go into our peel ply. A little bit of tension on it. There we go. So now I'm pushing it in. What I'm going to do is peel off about 1 inch of the tape back, maybe 3/4 of an inch, doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be too much. To come down here, and where I'm going to put the pleat is where I'm going to put this part that I peeled back to. So I'm going to put that right there. Put some gloves on. This is where I want to prevent oil from getting on this sticky tape. Now sticky tape will stick to these pretty good, but we can deal with that. All right, so here we go. What we're going to do then is just continue on as straight as I can, right on across here, across this sticky tape that I've just added on top. So here's a potential area for leaks. There's going to be a crevice right here. So I need to very carefully put a little tension on it, but make sure that I press. So now I can look there and I can see when I stretch it out a little bit, got it completely closed with vacuum bag. So now let's just continue right on across here. Good. We got that sealed now. I guess what we're going to do, here comes the interesting part of this. So I put a little extra on here. It's a little higher than I really need. And you got to have probably at least a 1/2 inch. And that's just about what I have, is a little bit extra. What we're going to do now is we're going to bend it. In this particular case, I'm going to come down about a 1/2 inch. I'm going to bend this over. If you tried to come around the end with your vacuum bag, that is really difficult to do without having a little extra vacuum bag in there and creating an air gap. So instead of doing that, we just bend the darn tape over. And press it down. Now we can easily close this air gap that's currently right up here at the end of our loop. Press that down, and it's quite easy now to get rid of this air gap that's at the end of our extra tape, just like we did back here. So we just stretch it out. So now I have put the vacuum bag down in there, squish it down. We've sealed that off. Now what we do then is proceed on, just like we have been going. Stretch it out, get out any wrinkles. So our next potential air gap is right here. So again, we're just going to put a little tension on our vacuum bag and just press right down in there. So as I was pressing it down in there, I'm pulling back with the vacuum bag this way to put tension on the bag, and then pressing down into that gap. And we got a nice seal there now. So I'm going to keep tension on it as we come along here. Now, there's a little bit of a wrinkle right here in our sticky tape. So I want to make sure I press down well into that wrinkle. That looks good. Okay. We will proceed on over to where our next pleat is going to be. Now we've come to the most difficult pleat, which is the last pleat that we're going to do. And the reason for that is that we can't do the pleats like we've been going along, which is to rip off the tape, stick it down, stick in our little extra piece for the pleat, kind of pick a spot for the top bend, and then try to proceed on across. Because we're unlikely to really pick that top bend in the perfect spot. So we could end up with excess vacuum bag over here. Then we're in trouble. Or we may not have enough vacuum bag. We might end up doing something like this and then trying to press down. That's not going to work very well. Now I did almost create a problem for myself. As you can see, this pleat here is only about 1 inch high, whereas the one on the other side is about 2 inches high. And the reason for that is I wasn't careful as I was putting my vacuum bag down, coming along these sides, and I slowly let the edges come out about 1/2 inch on each side, maybe just a little more, and that's why I ran out. So you need to be a little more careful about that. But this pleat here on each side is tall enough with enough excess that I don't think I'm going to run into an issue. I think we're going to be in good shape. Another thing I got to be careful about on this pleat here at the end is I want to make sure it runs straight across. I don't want to have it out like this, because then I'm stealing from this pleat here over my port. So I'm going to have to be a little careful about that. But we proceed along like we have been doing. Oh, got a little paper loose underneath there. Let me get that off. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and come over close to where our pleat's supposed to be, and we'll do that like we normally have been doing. Make sure we don't get any wrinkles. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and start on our pleat. So I'm trying to make it so that you can see it. Okay, now here's where things start to go a little bit different than with our other pleats. Now with the way we've been pleating, we would go ahead and peel this off, just pick a spot to bend it over with the height we intended, and then proceed over this direction. We're not going to do that this time. We're actually going to proceed back this way. So, peel this off. Again, we're getting a little bit of a tear on this corner. We got to be careful about making sure that white tape gets removed. Okay, now I got to be careful that things don't stick down prematurely. Here we go. So now we come back from the opposite corner. Try to keep this as straight as we can. And what will happen naturally is that the kink in our pleat will just end up exactly where we need it. I did create a new issue for myself. I didn't quite get okay, I created an issue for myself. I'm going to have to fix it with a little more tape. So what happened, you can see it from up there, the sticky tape I didn't quite get as straight as I should. It came over to this angle, but we can fix that with just a little more sticky tape. What I'll do is put it on where it should have gone. It's pretty close. Okay, good. Here we go. Now, I pull back this way where my hook's going to be. I'm going to lay it down, and press it down. And we have our pleat with no wrinkles. At least I hope not. So now I'm going to go through and go all the way around the bag, press it down, try and make sure we don't have any air gaps through where we have tape joints. That we just put the vacuum bag over, I did later go ahead and do a vacuum infusion on that, and it worked out pretty well, except the vacuum bag had some pinholes. But the pleats worked out great, so I'm very pleased with how that went. If you'd like to see more of these type of videos, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and make sure you click that little bell symbol and get notified anytime I load up a new video.